I'm at, this is Socrates Sculpture Park at Broadway and Vernon in Astoria. There is a secret to this park that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, but the secret also comes with a bit of mystery. Maybe a third of the perimeter of the park is lined with stones, tombstones to be exact, and these are tombstones which a very credible, reliable source told me originated from St. Michael's Cemetery in Astoria. The story being that in the 1980s, St. Michael's Cemetery was just a deplorable disaster. It was so overgrown and untaken care of that you might not even know it was a cemetery. So new ownership took over and they mowed the lawn. But then they made it their first order of business to knock over a whole bunch of tombstones and throw 6 feet of dirt on top of the old burials, and then start selling new burials on top of the old ones. The tombstones were thrown into the back of a truck and hauled off to this little plot of land, which at the time was an illegal dumping ground. That's the story that I've been told, and like I said, my source is very credible on this, but the mystery, and then what happened next was when Socrates Sculpture Park, when they broke ground on this park, they found all the tombstones and decided to build a wall with them. So I don't know. Make of it what you wish. This whole little situation. For starters, the cemetery owner they were within their rights to knock down all those stones, or at least according to them, nobody had made perpetual care payments on those stones for generations. So they were within their right to knock them over and get rid of them. May seem a little disrespectful, but just that's what it is. That's the business. That's the cemetery business. But it also seems a little disrespectful that the creators of this park would knowingly just take a bunch of tombstones and not make any effort to document them, I guess. I mean, first of all, there's no question that these are tombstones lining the cemetery, as we'll see in this video. But the mystery becomes, where did they actually come from? Because I know St. Michael's pretty well, and these stones don't look anything like typical St. Michael's Cemetery. And it's not just the style, because it's kind of hard to tell, but it's the verbiage and the numbering system that appears on these stones. So if there's anything that could come of this, and I'm probably in no position to actually follow through with something like this, but if anything could come of this, I'd like to see the identities of those people whose tombstones were knocked over. I'd like to see their identities revealed and a monument of some sort in their memory, because it just doesn't seem fair that some people's memory gets wiped out in this kind of way while others survive. Most of the evidence that you'll find that these stones came from the cemetery is in the form of these square blocks with single letters on them. These square blocks function as placeholders for fresh burials. So when a new plot is dug and the first burial is performed, it's not typical that a tombstone is placed immediately. It's not typical that a tombstone is placed after the funeral. So these single letters are placed next to the burial. That's like a reminder for whoever puts in the tombstones. Whoever puts in the actual tombstones, just a reminder of where the burial is. Now these stones are actually sinking. I have pictures from a long time ago that show these stones mostly above ground, but this whole wall is kind of sinking. But point being, the most common bit of evidence that the wall of this park is made of tombstones it comes from these square blocks, which, by the way, are pretty generic across all cemeteries, so it doesn't really give a clue as to which cemetery these tombstones came from. So here is the beginning of a name, S-T-E, Stevens, who knows, but that's a little bit of evidence that. And then over here, you see it says number 711. Now, this is a pretty solid clue that these stones did not come from St. Michael's, because their location coordinate scheme doesn't use numbers like this. They arrange it by section, plot, and then burial number, which is how most cemeteries do it. I don't know which cemetery in New York numbers things like this, but I'm guessing that it might be Mount Zion, the Jewish cemetery, but that's just a crazy guess. Here are some more of the single letters, the square blocks with the placeholder letters. There's a whole bunch of them. This is on the wall outside the park, but it's still part of the park. It's like an alphabet soup. There's a whole bunch of them. This is the only full name, as far as I've been able to find. This is the only full name that appears anywhere on this wall, and unfortunately it's not very useful. I thought it might lead to a clue as to where somebody by this name was buried, but so far I haven't found anything. I might just be having bad luck, but this is a very common name, so there's probably somebody by this name in every New York cemetery. Now here's another number that I don't think you'd ever see at St. Michael's. They just don't, numbers there just don't go this high, and they don't number their sections or their graves or anything in this manner. And here's another number that doesn't make any sense for St. Michael's, but I'm going to go out there again, see for myself, and then I'm going to go out to Mount Zion to see if any of their sections have numbers like this. Now, I'm also not ready to say that St. Michael's has any unified style to its markers, but this just doesn't look like the sort of embellishment that you'd find on a St. Michael's cemetery. And again, I don't mean to harp on this, but the number 322 just doesn't make any sense for the way they organize their yard. You can't see it anymore, and I'm not ready to start pulling out the hedges, but underneath all this, all these bushes, there were 8 of the square letters, and they were arranged to spell the words Bear Otto, Bearotto. I don't know if there was some hidden meaning to those 2 words, if it was somebody's nickname, or if it's just some kind of coded message, or if it's just random. I don't know, but it's the only apparently deliberate occurrence of, actual intelligible words that the creators of this park put together. But you can't see it anymore, but I'll dig up my old photos of it. Okay, so this is one last clue that these stones did not come from St. Michael's. All around this park in this wall, you'll see the word lot, designating, I'm not sure what, but whatever. St. Michael's doesn't have lots, it has plots. And I've scoured the map, and I've been on the grounds enough to confirm that they don't have lots. They might refer to them colloquially as that, but this is another little bit of stone that you would just never see at St. Michael's. So the question remains, where did all these stones come from? And like I said, I'm leaning toward Mount Zion, but I'll have to investigate further. Here's one other occurrence of the word lot, which, I don't know, it's probably appears a dozen, maybe 15 times along this wall, at least where it's visible. I suspect there are still tombstones in these bushes that have just been buried, but it's all a little eerie, I suppose, but it's not like the bodies are buried here. So the mystery continues, but I'm gonna see what I can find out. So I've been doing research into this off and on for a long time, and I've only ever found one write-up about it. It was just like a passing mention in Untapped Cities, where it was just a longer article about this park, but they mention in passing that the wall is made out of tombstones. And then they also add that nobody who works here knows where they came from. But it was said to have been reported on when it all happened, after the stones were all knocked down and the 6 feet of dirt was thrown on top of the old burials. Word got out. It didn't take long for word to get out. So there were community board meetings and outrage and all that good stuff. And the cemetery, according to the lore, I don't mean to report this as fact because I'm still figuring it all out, but the story is that they were not allowed to put fresh burials on that 6 feet of dirt. And while I still don't think this actually happened at St. Michael's, it is curious to know that there is a conspicuously empty hill on the grounds with no burials. So maybe we'll go take a look at that.